Forest Ranger Emma Rodriguez had been tracking wild horses in the Colorado wilderness for 8 years, and she'd seen her share of unusual animal behavior. But when she discovered fresh foal tracks leading away from a wild Mustang herd, alone with no adult horse tracks accompanying them, every instinct told her something was very wrong. Young foals never separate from their mothers. They don't wander off alone. And they definitely don't travel in a straight line with apparent purpose toward. Well, that was the mystery. When Emma followed those tiny tracks for 3 miles through increasingly difficult terrain, she expected to find a lost foal, maybe injured, possibly dead. What she actually found at the end of those tracks made her question everything she thought she knew about wild horses, animal intelligence, and the invisible bonds that connect different species in ways science is only beginning to understand. Before we reveal what was waiting at the end of those tracks, if you love mind-bending true animal stories that will change how you see the natural world, subscribe now and hit that bell. What you're about to witness has never been documented before. Emma Rodriguez started her career as a forest ranger because she'd always felt more comfortable with animals than people. At 32 years old, she'd spent the last 8 years working in the San Juan National Forest in southwestern Colorado, specializing in wild horse population management and behavior research. It was early June, and Emma was conducting her monthly survey of the Red Canyon wild horse herd, a band of about 20 Mustangs that ranged across roughly 15,000 acres of rugged mountain terrain. She'd been observing this particular herd for 3 years, knew most of the horses individually, had documented births, deaths, social dynamics, and seasonal movement patterns. On this particular morning, Emma hiked to one of her regular observation points, a rocky outcrop that provided an excellent view of the meadow where the herd typically grazed during early morning hours. She arrived at dawn, set up her spotting scope, and began her count. 18 horses. She counted again. Still 18. The herd should have 22. Emma felt a flutter of concern. 4 missing horses could mean several things. They might have split off temporarily to graze in a different area, they might have been driven off by the stallion, though that was rare with established herd members, or something might have happened to them. She spent the next hour glassing the surrounding area, looking for the missing horses. That's when she spotted something that made her look twice. In the soft dirt near the meadow's edge she could see tracks. Small tracks. Full tracks. Emma climbed down from her observation point and examined the tracks more closely. They were definitely from a young foal, probably 2 to 3 months old based on the hoof size. But what made these tracks unusual was that they were alone. No adult horse tracks accompanied them. The foal had been walking solo. That's not right, Emma muttered, following the track line with her eyes. Young foals didn't wander away from their mothers. The maternal bond in horses was incredibly strong during the first year of life. A foal this young should be within 10 feet of its mother at all times. Emma pulled out her camera and documented the tracks, then began following them. The trail led away from the meadow into the forest, following what looked like a game trail. The foal's gait appeared normal, walking, not running, no signs of panic or injury in the track pattern. The young horse seemed to be traveling with purpose, heading somewhere specific. After about half a mile, Emma noticed something else unusual. The tracks showed the foal had stopped several times. She could see places where the small hooves had stood in one spot, weight shifting as if the animal was pausing to rest or check direction. But each time the tracks resumed in the same general direction. Northeast. Steadily northeast into increasingly dense forest. Emma's radio crackled. Rodriguez, this is base. What's your status? I'm tracking a lone foal. Separated from the Red Canyon herd. Following tracks to determine if the animal is lost or injured. Copy. Keep us posted. Weather forecast shows possible thunderstorms this afternoon, so don't go too far out. Understood. But Emma was already committed. Her ranger instincts and her concern for the foal's welfare overrode caution. She continued following the tracks, documenting as she went, photographing, taking GPS waypoints, creating a trail map. 1 mile. 2 miles. The terrain grew steeper, rockier. The foal's tracks showed it had navigated some difficult sections, scrambling over rocks, pushing through thick brush. For such a young animal, this was an impressive and exhausting journey. Where are you going, little one? Emma whispered. What's out here that's so important? At the 3-mile mark, the forest opened into a small clearing. Emma expected the tracks to continue through, but instead they stopped. Just stopped. In the middle of the clearing. Emma's heart rate increased as her mind ran through possibilities. Had the foal been taken by a predator? Mountain lions were active in this area. But there was no sign of struggle, no disturbed ground, no blood, no drag marks. She looked around the clearing more carefully, and that's when she saw it. On the far edge of the clearing, partially hidden in the tree line, was something that didn't belong in the wilderness. Something human-made. Emma approached cautiously, her hand instinctively moving to the radio on her belt. What she'd spotted was a small cabin, or more accurately, the ruins of a cabin. It was old, probably built 50 or 60 years ago and now mostly collapsed. The roof had caved in, walls were crumbling, windows were long gone. Nature was reclaiming it, with vines and small trees growing through what remained of the structure. But it was the foal's tracks that caught Emma's attention. They didn't just stop at the clearing. They continued right up to the cabin ruins and then disappeared inside through what had once been the doorway. "You've got to be kidding me," Emma breathed. A wild foal had traveled 3 miles through difficult terrain to reach an abandoned cabin? She keyed her radio. "This is Rodriguez. I followed the foal tracks to an old abandoned structure at." She rattled off the GPS coordinates. "The tracks lead inside. I'm going to investigate." "Copy that. Be careful, Emma. Old structures can be unstable." Emma approached the cabin slowly, calling out softly, "Hey, baby. Are you in there? I'm not going to hurt you." She could hear something inside, small sounds, movement. Carefully, she peered through the collapsed doorway into the cabin's dim interior. What she saw made her freeze in complete shock. The foal was there, a beautiful palomino color, cream-colored body with white mane and tail, probably about 10 weeks old. The young horse was standing in what had once been the cabin's main room, surrounded by collapsed furniture and debris. But the foal wasn't alone. Huddled in the corner of the cabin, partially hidden behind what remained of an old wooden table, was a dog. Not a wild coyote or wolf, a domestic dog. A large golden retriever, elderly from the look of it, with a graying muzzle and cloudy eyes suggesting advanced age. The dog was thin, clearly malnourished, and appeared to be injured. One back leg was held at an awkward angle. And the foal was standing between Emma and the dog in a clearly protective stance. Emma's mind reeled as she tried to process what she was seeing. A wild foal had somehow found an injured domestic dog in an abandoned cabin miles from any human habitation, and rather than running away, the young horse appeared to be protecting it? Guarding it? What in the world? Emma whispered. The foal turned to look at her, and Emma saw something remarkable in those large, dark eyes. Not fear. Not aggression. Something that looked almost like relief. As if the foal was saying, "Finally, I've been trying to get help." The dog whimpered softly from its corner. Now that Emma's eyes had adjusted to the dim interior, she could see more details. There was an old metal bowl near the dog, the kind that might have been left behind when someone abandoned the cabin years ago. And the bowl had water in it. Fresh water, judging by the clarity. Emma's scientific mind started working through the impossibility of what she was witnessing. The dog was clearly someone's pet. It wore a collar, though the tags were missing or had fallen off. Somehow this dog had ended up in this abandoned cabin, injured and unable to move. It would have died here alone within days. But then a wild foal had found it. And rather than running from the strange creature, the young horse had, what? Decided to help? Stayed with the injured dog? Tried to find help? "This isn't possible," Emma said aloud. "Horses and dogs don't form bonds like this, especially wild horses and strange dogs. Especially not foals this young." But the evidence was right in front of her. The foal whinnied softly and took a step toward Emma, then looked back at the dog, then back at Emma. The message was unmistakable. Help. Please help. Emma slowly entered the cabin, moving carefully to avoid startling either animal. She knelt down, making herself smaller and less threatening, and pulled out her radio. "Base, I need you to contact Animal Control and have them send someone to these coordinates. I've found an injured domestic dog, appears to be a senior golden retriever, possibly with a broken leg. I'm also going to need a wildlife veterinarian if Dr. Patterson is available. We have an unusual situation here." "Copy. A dog? Emma, how did a domestic dog end up that far into the backcountry? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Also, send a scanner for microchips. If this dog belongs to someone, we need to find them." While waiting for backup, Emma carefully approached the dog. The animal was friendly despite its obvious pain and fear, its tail giving a weak wag when Emma spoke gently to it. She carefully examined the injured leg without touching. Definitely broken, and the break wasn't fresh. This had happened days ago, maybe a week. The foal remained close, watching Emma's every move, still positioned protectively near the dog. Emma noticed something else, the water bowl. She looked around the cabin and spotted what looked like an old hand pump near what had been the kitchen area. Incredibly, when Emma tried it, a small amount of water trickled out. The underground spring that fed it was apparently still active. "You've been bringing the dog water?" Emma said to the foal, hardly believing her own words. "Somehow you figured out the pump? Or maybe you just knocked the handle and water came out by accident and then you, what? Understood the connection? Kept doing it?" The foal's ears flicked toward Emma's voice. The young horse made a soft sound, not quite a whinny, more like a conversational nicker. Emma examined the area more carefully. Near the dog were the crushed remains of what looked like a backpack, old, weathered, torn apart by animals looking for food. There were scattered items: an empty water bottle, torn fabric, a broken compass, and, Emma's heart sank, a wallet. She carefully picked up the wallet and opened it. Inside was a driver's license for a man named Robert Chin, age 73, address in Durango, Colorado, about 15 miles from their current location. The license photo showed an elderly Asian man with kind eyes and a warm smile. Emma immediately radioed base with the information. "Run this name for me. Robert Chin, Durango address." She read off the details. "I think we might have a missing person case connected to this dog." The response came back within minutes. "Emma, we have a match. Robert Chin was reported missing 9 days ago. He told his family he was going on a day hike with his dog, Bailey. When he didn't return by evening, they called it in. Search and rescue conducted operations for 4 days but found no trace. The assumption was he'd suffered a medical event and both he and the dog had perished in a remote area. Search was called off 3 days ago. 9 days. The dog, Bailey, had been here, injured and alone, for 9 days. Emma looked around the cabin with new urgency. If Robert had made it this far with his dog, if something had happened to him here. Base, I need that search and rescue team reactivated. If Robert Chin made it to this cabin, there's a chance he's still in the area. Also, send a cadaver dog if available. Emma stepped outside to make a more thorough search of the area while waiting for backup. The foal followed her out, staying close but not interfering. Emma searched the perimeter of the cabin, looking for any signs of human remains or evidence of what had happened. About 50 yards from the cabin, partially hidden by undergrowth, Emma found it. A small makeshift shelter, branches and bark arranged to create protection from elements. And beneath the shelter, clearly visible, was a sleeping bag. Emma's heart pounded as she approached. "Robert? Mr. Chin? Can you hear me?" A weak voice responded from inside the sleeping bag. "Bailey? Is that Bailey?" Robert Chin was alive, but barely. At 73, he'd survived 9 days in the wilderness with minimal supplies, a sprained ankle that had prevented him from walking, and the crushing guilt of knowing his beloved dog was injured and suffering in the cabin while he was too injured to help. As Emma provided emergency first aid and waited for the medevac helicopter that was being dispatched, Robert told his story in fragments, his voice weak but determined to explain. "Bailey and we were hiking. I know these trails. Been coming here 40 years. But I slipped on wet rocks near the creek, fell hard. Thought I just twisted my ankle, but I couldn't put weight on it. Bailey tried to help, kept trying to support me, but she's 13 years old, has arthritis. We made it to the old cabin. I remembered it from years ago, thought we could wait there, that someone would find us." Robert paused to catch his breath, and Emma noticed tears streaming down his weathered face. "But in the cabin, Bailey fell through rotten floorboards. Broke her leg. I heard the bone snap. She was in so much pain and I couldn't help her. I couldn't even get down to her properly with my ankle. I managed to drag myself outside, built that shelter, kept calling for help on my phone until the battery died. I was going to die out here. I'd accepted that. But knowing Bailey was suffering in that cabin, knowing I couldn't help her." His voice broke completely. Emma squeezed his hand gently. "Mr. Chin, Bailey's alive. She's going to be okay. But I need to ask you something. Have you seen a wild horse around here? A young foal?" Robert's eyes widened. "The Palomino? The little Palomino foal? You've seen it too? It's in the cabin right now with Bailey? Can you tell me about it?" 3 days ago, or maybe 4, I've lost track of time, I heard Bailey barking from the cabin. Different bark, excited bark. I crawled close enough to see inside and there was this young horse. Wild horse had to be. It was standing near Bailey and I thought it might hurt her, might kick her. But it didn't. It touched her with its nose, gentle-like. And then. Robert paused, as if still not believing his own memory. Then the foal went to that old pump. I'd managed to get it working when we first got to the cabin, got Bailey some water before I had to move outside. The foal knocked the handle, probably by accident, and water came out. The foal jumped back, startled. But then it did it again. Deliberately. Knocked the handle, water came out, the foal let the water flow into that old bowl by Bailey. Emma listened stunned. Everything Robert was describing matched what she'd pieced together, but hearing it confirmed was overwhelming. The foal came back every day. Sometimes twice a day. Always brought water. Started spending longer periods in the cabin like it was watching over Bailey. Protecting her. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought maybe I was hallucinating from dehydration and hunger. You weren't hallucinating, Mr. Chin. I followed that foal's tracks here. It traveled 3 miles from its herd to reach this cabin. 3 miles? But why? Why would a wild baby horse care about a dog it doesn't know? That was the question that would haunt Emma for months to come. Why indeed? The medevac helicopter arrived within 45 minutes. Paramedics stabilized Robert and prepared him for transport. A wildlife veterinarian, Dr. Sarah Patterson, arrived by ground vehicle shortly after, along with an animal control officer with specialized equipment for moving large injured animals. The challenge was Bailey. The old dog was in severe pain, terrified, and moving her would be agonizing. Dr. Patterson administered strong pain medication and carefully stabilized the broken leg for transport. Through all of this, the foal remained in the cabin, standing guard over Bailey as if the young horse felt personally responsible for the dog's welfare. Getting Bailey out of the cabin and into the transport vehicle was delicate, painful work. The old dog whimpered despite the pain medication, confused and frightened by all the human activity. Throughout the process, the foal stayed close, making soft sounds that seemed intended to comfort the dog. Dr. Patterson, who'd worked with wild horses for 20 years, was astounded by the foal's behavior. I've never seen anything like this. Wild horses avoid human activity. They especially avoid commotion and noise. This foal should have bolted the moment we arrived. Instead, it's acting like a concerned family member. When they finally lifted Bailey onto the stretcher, the foal became visibly agitated, dancing in place, whinnying urgently. The young horse tried to follow as they carried Bailey toward the vehicle. Emma made a decision that went against protocol but felt absolutely right. Let the foal follow. Don't try to separate them yet. The strange procession made its way through the forest. Wildlife veterinarian and animal control carrying an injured dog on a stretcher, followed closely by a wild Palomino foal that refused to leave the dog's side. Emma documented everything with her camera, knowing no one would believe this without visual proof. At the vehicles they faced a dilemma. Bailey would be transported to the emergency veterinary hospital in Durango. But what about the foal? The young horse was wild, protected under federal law, and belonged with its herd. They couldn't just take it to a veterinary clinic. The foal solved the problem by making its intentions clear. As they loaded Bailey into the specialized animal transport vehicle, the young horse tried to jump in after her. When Emma gently blocked the foal, it became frantic, calling out, pawing the ground, clearly distressed at being separated from the dog. We can't take a wild foal to Durango, the animal control officer said. We need to get it back to its herd. I know that, Emma said. But look at it. This foal has bonded with Bailey. Separating them now, after everything this young horse did to save her. Dr. Patterson intervened. What if we compromise? We transport Bailey to the clinic, get her leg surgically repaired. It's going to need pins and plates at her age. That's at least a 2-day hospitalization. Meanwhile, Emma can try to reunite the foal with its herd. If the mother accepts the foal back, and there's no guarantee after several days of separation, then that's where the foal belongs. But if the herd has moved on, or if the mother rejects the foal, we're going to have to make decisions about the young horse's welfare anyway. It was the best solution they had. Emma managed to guide the foal into a temporary holding pen they'd erected using portable panels. The young horse called desperately to Bailey as the transport vehicle drove away, and the sound was heartbreaking, pure distress and confusion. I'm sorry, little one, Emma said softly. I know you don't understand. But we're helping your friend. We're doing what you tried to do, we're saving Bailey. The foal continued calling for hours, even as Emma transported it back toward the area where the Red Canyon herd had last been sighted. Throughout the journey, Emma found herself wondering about the mystery at the heart of this story. How had the foal found Bailey in the first place? Why had it decided to help instead of running away? How had it known to bring water? And most puzzling of all, how had it known to seek human help by leaving tracks that would be followed? Was it all coincidence? Instinct? Or was there something more profound happening? Something that suggested animal intelligence and emotional capacity beyond what science had documented? Finding the Red Canyon herd took 2 days of searching. They'd moved to higher elevation, following seasonal grazing patterns. When Emma finally located them and released the foal in a meadow about a quarter-mile from the herd, she wasn't sure what would happen. The foal stood motionless for a moment, scenting the air, orienting itself. Then it released a loud whinny, a call that echoed across the valley. From the distant herd, a response came immediately. A mare broke away from the group and came galloping toward the foal, a beautiful bay mare with a distinctive white blaze. Mother and baby reunited with obvious joy, the mare frantically checking her foal, sniffing, nickering, clearly relieved. The foal nursed briefly, then the pair rejoined the herd. Within minutes, it was as if the young horse had never left, absorbed back into the wild band, running and playing with other foals. But Emma noticed something. Several times over the next hour of observation, the foal would stop playing, move to the edge of the meadow and stare in the direction of Durango, as if remembering, as if wondering about Bailey. 3 days later, Emma received the call she'd been waiting for. Bailey had come through surgery successfully. The broken leg was repaired with pins and plates. Robert Chin, treated for dehydration, malnutrition, and a severely sprained ankle, was recovering well. Most importantly, Robert had no other family. Bailey was his companion, his family. The bond between the elderly man and his elderly dog was profound and loving. "There's something else you should know," Dr. Patterson said during that call. "When we examined Bailey more thoroughly, we found something interesting. She's not just any golden retriever. According to her microchip records and Robert's account, Bailey was a certified therapy dog for 10 years. She worked in hospitals, nursing homes, and schools. She was trained specifically to provide comfort and support to those in distress." Emma felt chills run down her spine. So Bailey's entire life was spent helping others, comforting those who needed it. Exactly. And now she was the one who needed help. And somehow, a wild foal, an animal that had probably never seen a dog before, that had no reason to care about a strange injured creature, chose to help her. Emma thought about this for days, weeks, months afterward. She reviewed her footage, wrote detailed reports, consulted with animal behaviorists and wildlife biologists. The consensus was remarkable. They had documented something extraordinary. The prevailing theory was that the foal, exploring its territory as young animals do, had wandered to the abandoned cabin and encountered Bailey. Perhaps the dog's gentle nature, her therapy training, her lack of aggression despite fear and pain, had somehow communicated to the young horse that this was a non-threatening creature in distress. The foal's natural curiosity, combined with what researchers called cross-species empathy, documented in various animals but rarely to this degree, had led to the unusual bond. The fact that Bailey had spent her life as a therapy animal, trained to comfort and connect with others, might have made her particularly capable of forming a bond with the wild foal. And the foal's apparent attempt to seek help by traveling to the edge of human territory suggested a level of problem-solving and understanding that challenged existing assumptions about wild horse cognition. 6 months later, Emma arranged something special. With permission from wildlife authorities and using carefully planned protocols to minimize disruption to the wild herd, she brought Robert and Bailey, now fully recovered, to a remote observation point overlooking the meadow where the Red Canyon herd grazed. They waited for 2 hours before the foal appeared, now larger, stronger, no longer a baby but an adolescent horse, confident and healthy. Emma had marked the young horse's location with her tracking equipment, knew its patterns. Robert called out softly and Bailey, hearing something in the wind, recognizing something she couldn't explain, gave a single, soft bark. The foal's head came up. Those large dark eyes scanned the distant tree line where Robert, Bailey, and Emma sat hidden. For a long moment, the young horse stood perfectly still. Then the foal took several steps toward them, not close, still maintaining wild distance, but clearly recognizing something familiar. The young horse whinnied once, a sound that made Bailey's tail wag and Robert's eyes fill with tears. "Thank you," Robert whispered to the distant foal. "Thank you for saving her. Thank you for bringing help. I don't know how you knew, but thank you." The foal stood watching them for another minute, then turned and rejoined the herd, galloping across the meadow with the other young horses, wild and free and where it belonged. But Emma noticed, and documented in her research notes, that several times over the following months, when she observed the Red Canyon herd, that particular foal would pause during grazing or play and look toward the direction of human territory, as if remembering, as if maintaining a connection to the unusual friend it had made and saved. The Palomino foal, now a healthy yearling, continues to thrive with the Red Canyon herd. Bailey made a complete recovery and continues to live with Robert Chin, who says she's earned retirement from her therapy work, though he jokes that she completed one final, extraordinary therapy session by teaching a wild horse about compassion. Emma Rodriguez published her findings in several wildlife behavior journals, where the case is cited as one of the most remarkable examples of cross-species empathy and problem-solving ever documented in wild horses. The cabin where Bailey sheltered has been marked as a historic site in the Forest Service records, though its location remains undisclosed to prevent disturbing the wild horses. If this incredible true story of unlikely friendship, animal intelligence, and the mysterious ways different species can connect moved you, please subscribe for more extraordinary animal stories. Hit that like button, share this video to spread awareness about the remarkable cognitive abilities of wild horses, and tell us in the comments. Do you believe animals are capable of empathy and problem-solving beyond what science has proven? Thanks for watching, and remember, the natural world is full of mysteries, and sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can bridge the gap between the wild and the tame, between different species, and even between life and death.